Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Amber Rose, also known as the Religious Hippie. You can basically follow me on any social media platform. Just type in the Religious Hippie and you will find me. So, today we're going to be talking about cancel culture, or call out culture as some people like to say it. And we're also going to dive a little bit into how to navigate social media as a young adult, teenager, even as an older adult. Honestly, whatever you need, I got you. I also wanted to say that I am so proud of myself because I cannot braid hair. I cannot. But the last 3 or 4 days, I have really been practicing, and even though it's not my best, it's not my best, the ones yesterday were a lot better than these, I'm still very proud of myself that I braided my own pigtails. So, and I can only braid pigtails right now, so that's why I look like a 5-year-old. So anyways, let's just get into this. I think a lot of the time these days we all feel like we're walking on eggshells, like you literally can't post anything without offending another person, and I find that super annoying. But as Christians, we can't beat around the bush. We can't just, be like, oh, it's fine, that's okay to do. Like, no, we can't do that. We can't be enablers to sin, because that in itself is a sin. And so it can be really difficult for us to navigate this cancel culture when it seems like everybody wants to cancel us. So what do we do? How do we navigate a world that literally hates us? How do we deal with these cancel culture issues in real life and social media life? Well, we're going to get into that. The first thing I want to do is I want to define cancel culture for any of y'all out there that might not know what it means. Cancel culture, according to Google, is a modern form of dyslexia already kicking in and we're not even 5 minutes in. Ostracism, in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, whether it's online or in person. It's commonly used in debates on free speech and censorship. So in other words, it's basically when somebody enjoys destroying the reputation of another, of somebody who made a mistake, and they offer them no repentance or forgiveness at all, which as Christians is a huge issue because that's what we're all about. It's all about forgiveness, repentance, mercy, etc. And so this culture can be really brutal for us. And it can also be very easy to fall into the culture itself and not realize it because it's constantly in front of us and it messages us subliminally. And so we don't even notice when we start doing it as well. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I think of cancel culture or whatnot, I think of a James Charles apology video that came out like 2 years ago where he's like crying or something. I don't even remember it. But I do remember how dramatic and unreal it was and fake, because honestly, any YouTuber who makes an apology video isn't actually sorry about what they said. They are sorry that they're losing followers, aka revenue. However, I will say that I find it hilarious when people think that this is new to our world, to our society, to our culture. This has been going on since before Jesus's time. Cain canceled Abel. Literally. Joseph's brothers tried canceling him. John the Baptist was literally canceled. And Eve tried to cancel all of us. So cancel culture is not this new plague that sprouted at the hands of millennials. This has been around and in the works for many, many years. And it will continue because guess what? They tried to cancel Jesus just for him to pop back up again and be like, hey guys, remember me? So what do? We look at the saints. So some of my favorite saints to look at when it comes to cancel culture is Saint Therese of Lisieux, Mother Teresa, Pope Saint John Paul II, Saint Edith Stein, and then Saint Teresa of Avila. They are very inspiring people who faced the cancel culture and overcame it. They really did. And so reading more into their stories and getting a better idea of who they were as people can really benefit you when it comes to tackling this cancel culture in today's times. I think it's also really important to learn about them, mainly because when you look at their stories and you see how they reacted to this type of cancel culture, they reacted with forgiveness and mercy and love, which is the exact opposite of what call out culture is. And so I think that's one of the main things we can do to defeat it, is to basically do the opposite of what cancel culture is. Saint Edith Stein said this beautiful quote, and I love quoting this all the time. Do not accept anything as the truth if it lacks love, and do not accept anything as love which lacks truth. And I also mentioned John the Baptist above when they canceled John the Baptist. I think he's a prime example of what can happen in cancel culture almost. He literally got beheaded for preaching truth. And so if you want to learn more about him, which I highly, highly suggest you do, you can read the book, The Life and Prayers of St. John the Baptist by Wyatt North. An amazing, amazing book. I've linked it below for you guys. It's phenomenal. It gives you in-depth ideas of who John the Baptist was, of his mission. It's just so wholesome. I can't explain until he gets beheaded in the end. That's not wholesome. But in general, it really gives you an insight into his life and this type of cancel culture that he was facing in his time. It's crazy to see how even though we live in different times, things still continue because of sin, because Eve tried to cancel us. Thanks, Eve. And so it's all because of the flaws of man that we are still dealing with cancel culture and racism and all of this. And only through God can we actually defeat any of it. So how do we navigate social media then? Well, I don't know. I'm still learning myself. Honestly, I spend way too much time on social media, a lot more than I should. And honestly, that time could be well spent exercising, taking my dog for walks, cleaning my room, doing laundry, doing homework. Like, I have so much to do, and yet I'm scrolling through social media like 7 hours a day. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. I am not proud of it, but I am not afraid to say that I have been on social media for almost 8 hours. I will show you. I will show you the proof. I will show you that I'm not lying. Hang on. Okay, this was Monday. Okay, this is Monday. 8 hours and 9 minutes. Tuesday was 4 hours. Okay. Wednesday was 7 hours and 23 minutes. Today, only 2 hours, which actually isn't bad, and that's usually my limit. But I have had days where I am on my phone way more than I should be. So the first thing I would probably suggest is to get a timer on your phone, like a lock app timer or something. I have one installed on mine. Actually, I think it came with my phone, to be honest. I don't think I had to actually install anything. But you can get apps where you can lock apps and an app to lock other apps. And you can put a timer on yourself so that you're not going over a certain amount of time, wasting your whole day on Instagram and things of that nature. So I would suggest getting a time management app, and you don't set the password. I've said this for other things, but you should not be the one to set the password. It should be somebody else. And please don't put like your call app on a time limit, because you still need to call people for emergencies and things. I'm talking about the social media apps that you're most likely to spend a lot of time on, like Instagram, TikTok, the ones where you just scroll and keep soaking in the information. You can even try turning your screen to black and white. A lot of people have done that and said it helps. I personally can't do that because I post a lot and I need to make sure that the content looks okay and presentable. And if it's black and white on my screen but color on another person's screen, I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. I need to be able to make sure I see the final product that other people are going to see. But I have friends who have done it who don't post. They just, they just do stuff, and they really, really like it. It's really helped them to nip that addiction in the bud. The next thing I'm going to suggest is do not post impulsively. Make sure you take time to think and reflect on a post before you post it. And I'm guilty of this. I'm not saying like I'm free of any of this. I have done this as well, where I haven't thought before I post it, and I've ended up deleted stuff because I'm like, that didn't come off the way I wanted it to, but that's still my responsibility to make sure that it does come out the way I want it to, and people don't misunderstand it. So if I have to repost something, I will, and fix whatever needs to be fixed. But especially if it involves an individual, even if it's a celebrity, even if it's just, you really want to be mindful of what you're saying and seeing if it can impact them in any way personally that's going to like destroy them. Another thing I would say is to give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't assume that every person who DMs you or comments on your post has an agenda that is negative or evil. And if they do, well, there's always a restrict button or a block button if needed. I've had to use it multiple times, unfortunately, but mostly I use the restrict button because I still feel like they should be able to see my stuff. I just don't want their vulgar comments in my comment section, but they can still like and view my material and my content. And I think that's important because I don't want to cut them off. I just want to kind of like make sure they don't say anything vulgar, because a lot of younger people follow me. A lot of younger people follow me, and I love them to death, and I want to be able to protect them from people like that. And so even though I love the people who hate on me, I still need to restrict them just for my own viewers' safety. I don't know if that made any sense. It makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to you guys. The next thing I am going to comment is something that a lot of people forget. You don't always have to respond to comments. You don't always have to comment something. You can scroll, and sometimes that's the best thing to do, is just pray and scroll. Because at the end of the day, is it really worth your energy? And are you really going to change anybody's mind on that topic at that moment in that comment section? Of course, you could always DM the person, in private and be like, hey, I saw that you posted this, can we discuss this? But you really need to pick your battles wisely and learn which ones are actually worth picking and which ones you just need to scroll past and just pray for that person. That is something I have learned over the last 2 years. I've never been one to really comment on opposing people's posts, but I have had people do it to me, and I'm like, okay, but you accomplished like nothing. So you really need to pick your battles wisely. Use your energy on things that are actually going to be fruitful and benefit the Catholic faith and your faith. So that's important to keep in mind. So the last thing for navigating social media that I found helpful is to get an accountability partner. And again, putting locks and stuff on your apps, time locks, etc., and not being the one that sets the password. Your accountability partner would be the one to do that and would check in with you, be like, hey, how's this going? Because I feel like so many times people are just like, oh, I have an addiction to this or that. But yet so many of us actually have an addiction to our phones, to social media itself, and yet it goes undiagnosed by literally every doctor because it's considered to be okay. When in reality, we've seen in studies that it really affects the brain with mental illness, etc. It makes it worse, and FOMO, the fear of missing out. So if you have an addiction to your phone, like if you're like me and you spend 8 hours a day on your phone — I don't spend 8 hours a day on my phone, but we lost electricity and the Wi-Fi went down, so I had to use my phone a lot more than usual. That's not an excuse. I'm saying I still shouldn't have spent that much time, but I didn't have any Wi-Fi on my computer, so all my work I had to do on my phone. But I will say that a lot of us are addicted to social media, and very few will say it because people don't view it as an actual addiction. They're just like, oh, I just like spending time chatting with my friends and stuff. But it is an addiction, and it can be extremely harmful to your mental health. So get an accountability partner, someone who can check in on you and being like, hey, let me see your social media stats for the week or something. Somebody to keep you accountable. Okay, so now that we covered social media, how do we handle cancel culture in real life? Pray for those who persecute you and for the people that are being persecuted. Show love towards everyone, whether this is the people being canceled or the people that are canceling other people. This is, of course, easier said than done, but practice makes perfect, and we grow in virtue every single time we practice it. So I promise you, with practice, prayer, meditation, repetition, patience, and grace, all things are possible through God. Work on yourself. You cannot calm a storm outside of you if the inside of you is a hurricane. We need to be mentally and spiritually prepared for these types of persecutions, for this cancel culture, which they're now calling it. And to me, it's just persecution in general. They're just giving it a new fancy title. It's important to be mentally and spiritually strong when it comes to these things. Otherwise, we can succumb to it, like I mentioned in the beginning, and fall for this cancel culture and not even notice. And before you know it, you're far away from God because the world has slowly wedged itself in between you two. And so it's very important that we are strong in our spiritual life and our mental state. And that's not the easiest. I know many people struggle with mental illness, and I still struggle with some too some days. I mean, it's not as bad as when I was a teenager, but some days I am just not having it. Like, it is a bad day, and I will go to adoration and then I will feel better. But the best thing to do to strengthen your spiritual life is to receive the sacraments, go to confession regularly, receive the Eucharist weekly, and keep up that prayer life. Make sure you always keep that connection of communication open with God. Engage in real conversations with people. If they are not willing to have a civil conversation with you, walk away. Do not be afraid to say, if you cannot have a civil conversation with me, there's no point in continuing this conversation, because I want a fruitful conversation and I want to hear your side, but I also need you to reciprocate that. And if they're not willing to do that, it's not a fruitful conversation to begin with. It's best just to walk away and just plant the seed maybe, and just, offer them a question to think about, something like that. But again, with the whole learn how to pick your battles wisely, that is something we also need to do in real life. I think one of the main things we really need to do is treat others the way that we would want to be treated. I think this is a really lost teaching these days. I haven't really seen many parents teach this specific, I don't know if you call it a virtue, but they don't really teach this to their children anymore. Treat others how you would like to be treated. And I think that's something we really need to drill into our own heads now that we're all adults, or young adults, teens. And it's our responsibility to take responsibility for how we treat other people. As children, as small children, if we hit somebody, well, we weren't really the age of reason then. And so we would be corrected by our parents and be like, hey, don't hit, that's not nice. But now it's our own responsibility to basically police ourselves. Now, these aren't easy, fast, or super flashy options, but they are really important to protect yourself and your well-being in these situations that occur in cancel culture, and there are a lot of them. And as sad as cancel culture is, I wanted to lighten the mood and give you guys 5 easy things you can do to, just show kindness to your neighbor, or love to somebody, or just be kind in general. So, number 1 on our list, leave someone a sticky note with an encouraging quote, a Bible verse, or just a compliment in general. This can be really sweet and it can brighten somebody's day. Next up, bake some bread for your neighbors. This is something my mom and I try to do quite a bit because our neighbors really love bread. But also we have our own sourdough starter kit kind of thing, and in general we just like making bread, and so we like to share that gift with the neighbors. Number 3, get some rocks, paint them pretty colors, and then write a Bible verse on it, and if you can fit it on the rock, the actual Bible verse on the back, and leave them around town, forest preserves, wherever you might be. Brighten somebody's day, make them think of God, and how much He loves them. You can also buy flowers for somebody as a surprise. I'm not really sure who you would buy flowers for, but you can literally buy flowers for anybody. Buy flowers for your mom, buy flowers for your neighbor, buy flowers for your grandma, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Just buy flowers for somebody. I don't know about y'all, but flowers brighten my day. I love flowers. All these girls that are just like, I'd rather have chicken nuggets than flowers. Actually, I do love chicken nuggets. But I would still prefer flowers over a chicken nugget bouquet. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. Women like flowers. And the last one I'm going to suggest that I do all the time is to pay for the person behind you when you are at the drive-thru. And with all of that being said, I hope this video helped you guys navigate the whole cancel culture. If you guys have any more questions, post them in the comments below. I will do my best to get to them, or maybe even do a Q&A on cancel culture for you guys for any specific questions you guys might have. But I hope this video helped for those who asked for it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!